10 Spine-chilling encounters with sinister Texas legends, unexplained tales revealed. Kim Jones never paid much attention to urban legends before, but after a grueling shift at the diner, exhaustion washed over her as she stepped inside their little house in Cedar Hollow. The scent of last night's reheated meatloaf hung heavily in the air, a reminder of her endless hustle as a single mother to Ella and Max. Shadows danced along the walls, flickering under the dim light of the ancient lamp, pulling her deeper into the press of darkness lurking just beyond the window. Outside, the early evening air felt charged, thick with whispers of the strange happenings that lurked around Cedar Hollow. Every time she pulled on her waitress apron, tales of the whistling woman crept into her thoughts, warnings from neighbors suffused with trepidation. They said she wandered the woods, luring children with haunting melodies before snatching them away. Kim shook off the fear, reminding herself to stay focused on her kids, who were sitting together on the couch, their eyes wide with the unspoken terror of the home alone. "Settle in, you two. I won't be long, just a few more hours," she said, forcing a smile. They nodded, but she could see the worry in their eyes. She closed the door behind her and walked to the diner, her heart heavy as she thought of them in the dark. Hours later, the diner buzzed with laughter and camaraderie, but each passing moment dragged her thoughts back to Ella and Max. Her heart thudded with dread. What if something happened? A sudden chill gripped her spine. Back home, the warmth of the house felt hollow. As she stepped inside, the kids rushed to her, their faces pale. "Mom, we heard a whistling." Ella stammered, clutching her brother's hand. Max whimpered, his little eyes darting nervously around the dim living room. "It's nothing, just your imaginations, sweethearts. It's late and you're tired." But even as she spoke, the unease lodged in her chest didn't dissipate. The next morning, proactive as ever, Kim rummaged through the attic for winter clothes and uncovered the old photo album left by the previous owners. Flipping through the yellowed pages made her stomach twist. The grainy images showed faces of the past, smiling yet sinister, shadowed by the remnants of local legends. A chill crept up her spine when she saw the whistling woman standing amid the very woods she and the children played in. The whispers from the townsfolk echoed in her mind. There was a darkness in Cedar Hollow, and it wasn't just folklore. Neighbors had been quiet of late, furtively avoiding her eyes. What were they hiding? What stories hid beneath their facade of cheerful small-town life? Before Kim could piece everything together, she felt a need to know more. Maybe a local historian could shed light on this mystery. Her nerves tingled as she approached the town's historical society, but once there, thick tension hung in the air. The few townsfolk inside refused to speak, their anxious glances darting toward the window as if expecting the very thing they'd been hiding to come crashing into their world. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As she left the historical society, uneasiness clung to her. Returning home, shadows began to crawl faster than she remembered, urgency pounding in her temples like a warning drum. What were her neighbors afraid of? What dark truths hid beneath their smiles? With every new discovery, each heartbeat felt heavier, echoing in tandem with a whistle that pierced through the window, suspending the frail veil of normalcy she believed existed in Cedar Hollow. As the shadows lengthened, Kim knew she was entwined in a treacherous web, and the struggle for her children's safety had just begun. Would she uncover the darkness that threatened their lives, or would she find herself a victim of the haunting that lurked beneath their very home? Every nerve in Kim's body screamed at her to act quickly. Slamming the door behind her, she felt the weight of the world close in. Shadows loomed longer in the corners of the living room, and the familiar wall creaked ominously. Max was curled up on the couch, wide eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Ella clung to him, her knuckles white. "Mom, we swear we heard it again," Ella whispered, her voice quaking like the leaves in the wind. It was just outside, the whistling. Their words sent icy fingers crawling up Kim's back. She dropped her bag with a dull thud, trying to shake off the panic that smothered her heart. "Did you see anything?" "No. But it sounded like it was calling for someone," Max chirped, his thin voice cracking from fear. Kim raked her fingers through her hair, desperately trying to hold on to reason. She needed answers. She remembered her discovery of the whistling woman's old photograph, nestled among the grim faces of Cedar Hollow. That hauntingly familiar melody seemed to vibrate in her ears, a call from the past weaving itself into the present. "Stay in here," she commanded, her heart racing as she grabbed a flashlight and headed for the door. The bitter wind outside hit her like a wall as she stepped onto the porch. The darkness felt alive, as if it were a physical presence closing in. "Mom!" Ella cried, fear curling her voice, echoing in the stillness. "I'll be right back. Don't open the door for anyone," Kim shouted over her shoulder, her voice cracking slightly. The whistle floated through the chill air, a siren-esque call that felt too familiar, too close. In the dim light of the flashlight, the trees cast monstrous shadows, twisting like fingers reaching into the night. She forced herself to breathe evenly. The woods, alive with dense underbrush and secrets, drew her in. Each step deeper felt more treacherous, as if the earth itself was conspiring to swallow her whole. The whistling thrummed louder with each stride, mocking her urgency. Dare she follow? The more Kim ventured, the closer the sound beckoned, wrapping around her like a fog. Then, a momentary pause, a break, a hollow silence that swallowed the world. Blood pounded in her ears, and panic gripped her as she trained her flashlight beam into the inky blackness, and then she saw a shadow flicker just inside the tree line, and she froze, her heart hammering painfully against her rib cage. It was there, barely visible, crouching low, yet shimmering with an unnatural glow that sent her stomach twisting. "Is someone there?" she called, her voice trembling, barely a whisper against the looming silence. No answer. Only the ghostly sound of soft whistling grew louder, a chilling melody threading through the dark arms of the forest. Kim stumbled back, glancing behind her, the house swallowed in the thick shadows of the woods. What if she was too far gone? What if she lost herself to this dark melody? What if she couldn't find her way back? With sudden clarity, she turned towards home, every instinct screaming to escape. As she hurried back through the trees, a cold gust brushed past her, merging with the whistling to form a haunting echo that felt like a warning or an invitation. Finally bursting through the door, she slammed it shut, gasping. "Did you find her?" Max asked in a frightened whisper. "No. But we can't be here, not tonight." Suddenly, the air turned cold, and a whistle danced in through the cracks of the window, chilling her blood. It sliced through the silence, filling the room with a feeling of dread. "Mom," Ella said, her eyes wide as she pointed to the window. Kim turned, and there in the dim light stood the figure of a woman just outside their yard, the dim outline of her hastily drawn silhouette, with arms stretched wide, almost beckoning. A scream knotted in her throat as the woman's whistle escalated, piercing through the air. What had she drawn into their lives? Kim backed away, clutching her children close. Uncertainty rolled through her as horror seeped into her heart. The darkness wasn't just behind them, it was within Cedar Hollow itself, waiting to claim them all. What would it take to pull them from the edge of doom? What bond had tethered her to the whistling woman? As the whistle echoed one final time, Kim knew she had to confront the truth or be consumed by it. What will happen when she learns the secret of the woman that has haunted Cedar Hollow for generations? Kim's hand trembled as she gripped the edge of the table, staring at the figure outside. The window offered only a blurred view of the woman's silhouette, swaying gently in the night breeze. Every instinct screamed for her to bolt, to shield her children from whatever dark magic lurked beyond their walls. "Mom, what's wrong?" Max whimpered, pressing against Ella, who was trying to remain brave but clearly shattered. "Stay back!" Kim shouted as another whistle sliced through the air. It had changed, morphed into something darker, more insistent. She felt it reaching into her, tugging at old memories, old fears. The woman outside shifted, and Kim's breath caught in her throat. She had seen that face before, a haunting echo of someone she once knew, or maybe a reflection of someone lost. What drew her to this woman? Was it a warning or a plea for help? Please. Just go away. Kim cried, her voice breaking. She looked towards her children, fear coiling in her chest. We need to find a way out of here. We need to find your dad. Where is he going to be, Mom? Ella asked, her voice shaking. You said he was already gone. What are we gonna do? The whistling erupted again, like shards of glass piercing the night. Kim felt hot tears stinging her eyes as she crushed down rising panic. We don't know that for sure, Ella. She looked back at the window, where the figure had begun to sway again, almost mesmerized by each gentle movement. But we need to be ready to fight back if something happens. Fight how? Max asked, his small voice filled with helplessness. Kim searched for an answer in the swirling darkness outside. She spotted a kitchen knife, glimmering with a flickering light. With this, we're not going to let anything hurt us. The woman outside raised her arms slowly, a strange invitation that sent chills cascading down Kim's spine. Her heart raced. Ella, Max, in the attic, go now. She forced the words out even as dread wrapped around her throat. She had no idea what would happen next, but keeping her kids safe was all that mattered. As she ushered them away, the whistling morphed once more into a dirge, haunting and sorrowful. You shouldn't have come back, a low voice echoed, settling in the room like a heavy fog. Kim spun around. She hadn't heard anyone enter. The woman now stood closer, illuminated by an otherworldly glow. The expression on her face was pained, as if she were trapped between worlds. Who are you? Kim demanded, panic rising like bile in her throat. I am what you feared, the woman whispered, her voice like a wheezing wind. Bound to the shadows of Cedar Hollow, and now so are you. The air pulsed with ancient energy. Kim felt her heart racing, each beat drowning out the whistle until all she could hear was the thunderous echo of her own fear. Get out of my house! She screamed, lurching forward with the knife, grasping onto the last vestiges of courage, but the woman began to sway and hum, her voice melting into the air, luring, tantalizing. The walls felt like they were closing in. The chilling pull of the melody wrapped around Kim's mind. What if this was a chance to understand? What if there was more to this, binding them like ghostly strings? Max's cry echoed from the attic. Mom! Stay up there! She shouted back, fighting against the strange force drawing at her consciousness. Kim's mind whirled. Would she dare ask this woman about the truth of Cedar Hollow? Could she unravel the tangled past that held her family hostage? Or would that truth, like so many before her, lure her into darkness, never to return? The whistle filled the room again, more insistent. A thread of desperation pulled at Kim. What kind of answer would she find where shadows danced? Now, as fear gripped her, she understood confrontation was inevitable. Would she protect her children from the darkness, or could she discover the key to its release? With a deep breath, she faced the whistling woman, ready to step deeper into the horror of Cedar Hollow. What lay behind the veil of the woman's sorrow? What horrific truth would emerge if Kim dared to listen? The air thickened, wrapping around Kim like a suffocating shroud. The warmth of the kitchen vanished, replaced by a frigid dread that seeped into her bones. The woman, her features still obscured, drifted closer, the glow intensifying to a brilliant white, casting disturbing shadows that quivered along the walls. Your fate is sealed, she rasped, and the sound dripped with a sorrowful weight that almost shocked Kim into submission. It echoed through the room, colliding with Kim's frantic thoughts, promising a truth so profound it could shatter them all. Who are you? Kim rasped again, her voice trembling. What do you want? I am the echo of lost hopes, of the pain buried in Cedar Hollow. The woman's eyes flickered as if struggling against an unseen force. You need to remember, Kim. To understand, you must face what you have forgotten. The knife trembled in Kim's grip. Could she really face whatever haunting memory she had buried? With each passing second, the darkness around her seemed to pulse with anticipation, waiting for her answer. Your children, the woman gestured toward the attic, they will suffer the consequences if you deny their roots. Just as the words left her lips, a shudder reverberated through the ground, rattling everything in the house. Max. Kim's heart raced as she lunged toward the attic door. She needed to get to them, to shield them from this madness. You stay away from my children. Can you truly protect them from what you hide? The woman's voice grew sharper, laced with malice. What destinies have you barred within your mind? You must face your truth or see your bloodline extinguished. Kim turned, eyes wide, searching for the woman's face. A fleeting flash of recognition sparked. It was a part of her she couldn't name, an interaction lost to the tangle of dread. What do you mean? She whispered, the knife dropping slightly as she faltered, the woman's expression twisted in anguish, morphing into the face of someone Kim had once known, yet couldn't place. You left them behind. You are tethered to this cycle. The past is the only way it all begins and ends here. The walls seemed to breathe around Kim. Each heartbeat drummed louder in her ears, drowning out reason. She felt the very air thicken with unresolved emotions and shadows of past lives rushing to consume her. What was she supposed to face? The terror of rejection, despair, or the haunting weight of things she had let go? Just then, a shriek pierced through her reverie. A child's desperate wail echoed from the attic. Mom! M.O.M. Max's voice rang out, fragile, splintered. Fear shot through her like ice. The woman didn't hesitate, her body had filled with the energy of night, her eyes pinpricks of starless black that consumed the light. It's too late, the woman warned. The shadows draw near. Kim gasped as a flicker of movement caught her eye, dark shapes creeping toward the window, sinuous like smoke. They undulated, melding into one another, whispering her name in a chorus of dread. She felt her heart in her throat, rising not just with dread, but with the terror of inevitability. The truth was not just within her grasp but within the reach of something far more sinister that thrived in Cedar Hollow. Fight back, Kim. You must protect them. Her thoughts screamed, urging her into action. With a swift motion, she hoisted the knife up high, her breath shaking. Get away from my children. But the flicker of darkness brushed against her again, cold and writhing, threatening to pull her under. For a split second, the room blurred, and memories she had locked away surged to the forefront of her mind. Haunted memories of Cedar Hollow, images of those she had once loved and lost, battling within her. Now, she had no choice. She needed to know. She had to confront it all if only to save them. What am I supposed to face? She screamed, the shadows whispering darker yet inviting promises. The whistling woman paused, and the shadows hesitated as if bound to her response. Face the truth, Kim, before the darkness takes what you hold most dear, before it claims the next victim. Just then, the front door burst open with a howl, wind sweeping through, carrying with it the stench of damp earth and something far more sinister. The night was not finished with them yet. What waited for Kim on the other side of her front door? Would she find the answers she desperately sought, or would she find only chaos and despair? The door flung open with a sickening creak, revealing a world cloaked in darkness. The wind whipped through, sending a chill slicing through Kim's already frozen limbs. Outside, the shadows twisted into ominous shapes that twisted and writhed as if alive. Kim's breath quickened, the knife trembling in her hand, its blade glistening menacingly in the sparse light. Mom! Max's voice called again, frantic and echoing from the attic. It pulled at her like a lifeline, urging her to ignore the chaos outside, to climb the stairs and protect her children instead. But the malevolent force that poured through the door was all-consuming. It whispered secrets that grasped at her mind, secrets about the past, about her failures, about choices that had turned her back on those she loved. Stay inside. She yelled, but her throat tightened around her words. Would Max even hear her? The woman in white lingered at the threshold, an insidious smile twisting her lips as if enjoying the dance of Kim's fear. "Look behind you," she hissed, the shadows responding to her command, writhing closer. Their whispers grew sharper, chanting a rhythm of despair that clawed at Kim's sanity. "They come for the ones who turned away, those who chose ignorance." Kim's pulse raced. She could hear her heartbeat in her ears, drowning out everything else. "What do you want?" she shouted, desperation coating her voice. "Just tell me what I need to do." "Face what you buried," the woman replied, her presence shadowing Kim like a vulture waiting for the moment of death. "Face your past, or all will be lost." With every fiber in her being, Kim lunged toward the darkened attic stairs. Each step felt impossibly heavy, drenched in the weight of the history she had tried to erase. The wind screamed behind her, howling like a creature starved for blood. The knife felt cold, a reminder that she was armed, yet entirely defenseless against the fear that lurked in her mind. "Max!" she cried, bursting into the attic. The space felt different, thicker, electrified, a palpable tension hanging in the air. Her children sat huddled together, small figures wrapped in shadows, their eyes wide with terror. "Mom, please!" Max whimpered, and Kim dashed to them, wrapping her arms around him, feeling his fears gnawing at her heart. "It's in here with us, Mom. It's watching." Kim looked around, the attic warped and distorted, the walls breathing like a living entity. The shadows were thicker here, swirling like a storm of malicious intent. The whispers crescendoed into a maddening babble, filling her mind with impossible truths. "Face it." The whistling woman's voice echoed through the space. "Face what you abandoned." "What did I abandon?" Kim screamed, despair wrapping around her like a vice. "What are you talking about?" Images flooded her mind, faces she had long forgotten, laughter tainted with sorrow, moments of grief locked in her heart. She remembered a child lost. Her daughter. The daughter she never spoke of, buried in a past she ran from. "No." She gasped, her heart racing. "No, no, I can't." "Your daughter is the key," the woman murmured, now a menacing whisper. "Embrace her memory, or be consumed by the shadows." Kim's breath hitched. The weight of years weighed heavily upon her. The shadows moved closer, undulating and pulsating with hunger. They threatened to engulf her and her children, ferrying them into the night. Suddenly, a piercing cry broke through the fog of her thoughts. Chilling laughter danced in the air, a cruel reminder that the dead do not rest lightly. "Mom! We're not safe here." Then, with a fierce resolve, Kim steeled herself. She had to accept the truth, to summon the strength to confront her past, not just for herself, but for Max, for her lost child. "Listen!" she shouted to the shadows, her voice ringing clear. "I will not let you take anyone else from me." But the darkness surged, a wave threatening to engulf them. The attic felt alive, breathing with tension, as if the structure itself watched her in judgment. That in the throes of chaos, would Kim find the resolve to face the specters of her past? Or would the shadows drown out all hope? As the room spun with encroaching terror, visions of a small face flickered in and out of focus within the dark. The question echoed through Kim's mind, haunting and persistent: could she truly reclaim what was lost, or would she forever sit in the shadows of her own despair? A frigid gust of wind surged through the window, and the darkness swelled like an ocean wave, ready to crash down upon them. The shadows surged forward, tangling and clawing at the edges of Kim's vision. A soul-bending darkness surrounded her, every whisper louder than the last, feeding off her fear like a parasite seeking sustenance. "Mom!" Max cried, squeezing her hand tighter. The grip of his fingers felt like a lifeline. She looked at him, those innocent eyes wide with terror, and guilt crashed over her like the very shadows threatening to swallow them whole. "I'm here!" Kim shouted, fighting the rising tide of despair. "I want to let them take you." As she scanned the attic, each creak of the floorboards beneath her feet echoed with the weight of the past. The child's laughter seeped through the walls, a haunting melody that danced mockingly around them. Kim's breath hitched. "It's just the wind," she whispered to herself, forcing the words into the air as if they could shield her, but the wind roared, lashing against the house like a beast chained and desperate for escape. Metal rattled a loose nail. A forgotten whisper. No, it was far worse. Kim's heart thundered as she felt an inexplicable presence, something cold and ancient prowling in the dark, eyeing them with sinister intent. "Why do they want us, Mom?" Max's voice trembled, pulling her from spiraling thoughts. Because of me," she breathed, realization dawning like a dreadful sunrise. The shadows weren't just her fears, they were her regrets, her failures. "I pushed it all away. I forgot." "Forgot what?" Max shouted, panic thickening the air. This was no longer about survival. It was about facing the truth. "I left someone behind, Max. We have to remember her." Kim spoke into the darkness, each word weighed by the gravity of guilt. "She can help us. I need to believe she is still with us." "Who?" he asked, his voice edged with confusion and fear. Another surge of wind whipped through the attic, drowning her answer, but the shadows responded. They twisted and coiled tighter, urging her to surrender to the darkness. "Raven," Kim murmured, the name slipping from her lips like a ghost returning home. Max's eyes flicked wide. "Raven? Is she?" "Yes," Kim cried, desperate for his understanding. "She is our daughter. I should be never Mom. Look." The shadows parted, and through the chaos, an outline emerged, a figure bathed in a faint, ethereal glow. It was a child, small and delicate, standing in the heart of the darkness, her eyes shimmering like stars. Kim's breath caught in her throat. It was a version of Raven she had buried long ago, the girl who had slipped quietly into oblivion without a word. "Raven?" Kim choked out, her voice shaking with raw emotion. "Is it really you?" A soft smile graced Raven's lips, but it was a smile tinged with sadness. "Mom, you have to let go of your pain. I'm not the one you lost." The child's voice was a melody, touching Kim's heart yet also sending icy tendrils of fear down her spine. The shadows writhed violently, contorting with rage at her words and threatening to draw them back into despair. "Don't listen to her!" screamed the whistling woman's voice from the corner, harsh and cold like ice on fire. "She cannot help you. Mom, we have to trust her." Max insisted, squeezing Kim's hand even tighter. "Face the truth," Raven urged. "Remember me, but don't let the darkness claim you." Kim felt the swell of panic clawing at her throat. Could she truly confront the past she buried? Would facing Raven's memory set them free or tear her apart? The shadows screamed, incoherent whispers rising to a crescendo, their desperate hunger clawing for the remnants of her soul. Tear-streaked and panting, Kim looked between the two figures, Raven shimmering in light, the whistling woman shrouded in darkness, fear tightening its grip around her heart. Was this the moment when she faced her past? Or was it merely the ushering of a more profound nightmare? Suddenly, the attic shifted, tilting like a boat caught in rough waters. The shadows exploded forth, crashing down like a tidal wave, and Kim's world twisted into chaos. In that fleeting moment, she knew, the tide was changing. But would Kim find the strength to fight for her family's future, or would the darkness seize them all in its cold embrace? As the light flickered in and out like the last heartbeat before the end, she could only whisper one last prayer. But what fate awaited them as the shadows loomed closer? An icy breeze swept through, carrying the faint echo of Raven's laughter, slipping deeper into the horizon of darkness. The floor shuddered under Kim's feet as the shadows crashed around them, a cacophony of whispers swelling to a deafening roar. Her heart raced, pounding painfully in her chest. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to escape, yet she was anchored by Max's small hand, still gripping hers, squeezing fiercely in synchronization with her rising panic. "Mom!" he shouted, his voice strained against the cacophony. "We have to do something. It's coming." The specter of Raven shimmered in and out of clarity, caught in the currents of shadow. "Let me in, Mom. I'm here to help," she pleaded, but her bright presence seemed increasingly fragile against the growing doom. "Stay away," the whistling woman howled. The sound pierced the darkness like a razor, sharp and cold. Kim felt its chill wrap around her throat, tightening. "Max, listen." Kim gasped, her voice barely a whisper above the tumult. "We have to remember together, we have to hold on." She braced herself, desperate to shield him from the rising tide of fear. Pieces of memory flitted through her mind, insignificant moments of laughter with Raven, little things that had made their family whole. With every ounce of willpower, she focused on one vivid recollection, Raven, spinning in the backyard, arms outstretched as if she could fly. Think of Raven. Remember. The air crackled, electrified by their shared memories. Max's eyes implored her, sensitive to the rush of new energy. The shadows hesitated, twisting and writhing as if they were being pushed back. "Yes. Feel it, Max. Our love. It can burn them." Kim shouted, feeling embers of hope ignite within her. But the whistling woman let out a shriek, a sound like tearing skin. The shadows lunged again, more aggressive, clawing at Kim's sanity. "You can't save her," she screamed, her voice morphing into a mocking, diabolical laugh. "You left her behind. You chose stop." Kim roared, a sudden fierce clarity slicing through her fear. "No. I didn't choose to forget." Her body pulsed with a new resolve, a fierce determination igniting. "Mom! The light!" Max yelled, pointing at Raven, who glowed brighter, illuminating the swirling darkness around them. "What do we do?" "Follow her," Kim commanded, pulling Max forward. "We trust her. We remember her." They stumbled forward through the chaos, the shadows writhing angrily as they approached Raven. The little girl's smile was radiant, but behind it lay a depth of sorrow that touched Kim's heart. "You need to let go of the guilt, Mom. You can't bring me back if you hold on to that pain." Suddenly, the attic shook violently, shadows swirling like a vortex, the room spinning beneath them. Kim held tightly to Max, refusing to let go. The world around them blurred, the air thick with despair. "Raven!" Kim cried out, her voice piercing the tumult. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Tears streamed down her face, the weight of her regrets spilling forth like an uncontrollable flood. With a poor grasp of gravity, they seemed to hover in a liminal space, the light surrounding Raven beckoning them closer. "Let me in, Mom. Let the love shine through. You have to do it. Look." Max pointed, realization dawning across his face. "The shadows are afraid." For the first time, Kim felt the pull of the shadows recede, as though Raven's light was a beacon cutting through the ink. Could they really escape this hell? Hope flickered, weaving its way through her despair, but then, in the blink of an eye, the whistling woman's face warped into an unholy rage. "You'll pay for this. You can't escape the darkness." She spat, the shadows roaring back for one final assault. Kim, shaking, rushed toward Raven. "I'm coming, baby." Together. Her heart felt as if it would explode as a blinding light enveloped them. And just like that, the air around them shifted. A deafening silence fell. They opened their eyes to find themselves suspended in darkness, alone, the whispers gone. But not for long. As if summoned, the shadows whispered again, impatient, furious. "Where are we?" Max trembled, clutching his mother tighter. Above them, something shifted, a deep, rhythmic pulse, echoing through the very fabric of the void. And then, a voice, soft but chilling, echoed back, "Ready for another chance, my dear?" Kim's breath caught. The shadows laughed, hungry, eager. What truth awaited them next? Was this truly a second chance, or just the beginning of something far more terrifying? The darkness wrapped around them like a heavy shroud, palpable and suffocating. Kim's fingers trembled against Max's small hand as the voice lingered, its coldness sinking into her bones. Another chance? She whispered, fear curling in her stomach. What does it mean? Max's voice quivered, a thin wail in the oppressive silence. The shadows curled closer, entwining around their legs and rising, creeping along Kim's body like fingers tracing her spine. She fought to shake them off, but they only tightened. The rhythmic pulse grew more intense, a heartbeat echoing through the thick void, taunting them with its ominous tempo. What is happening? She hissed, looking desperately at Raven, who shimmered like a distant star. The little girl's light flickered uneasily, her smile fading as the shadows drew nearer. You have to decide, Mom, soon. Raven urged, fear boiling in her wide eyes. Kim felt a twist of panic. Decide what? Choose to confront your darkness. The voice crooned, dripping with sinister allure. Relinquish your guilt, your sorrow. Embrace it. Kim could feel the shadows coiling around her thoughts, whispering hauntingly, replaying her regrets, her failures, the moments stolen by life's cruel hand. Raven's expression, empty, uncomprehending of her sorrow, reached out, but it only seemed to make it worse. Mom! Max shouted, wrestling against the constricting shadows. Fight it. Don't listen. Embrace the darkness, it is your only path to freedom. The voice echoed again, resonating with a chilling familiarity. It was a promise wrapped in a threat, a dark temptation that enveloped her. No. Kim cried out, catching her breath as the memories of Raven flashed through her mind, the way her laughter danced through the air, the sunny afternoons, the warmth of their bond. I won't give in to this. But the shadows sneered, their inky tendrils dipping into the corners of her mind, tugging at her vulnerabilities. You cannot escape what you truly are, Kim. To forget is to abandon. To remember is to suffer. Suddenly, the ground buckled beneath them, a deep rumble shaking the very essence of their world. It became harder to breathe. The pulsing grew frantic, each thud sending ripples of fear through Kim's chest. Look! Max shouted again, his eyes wide with terror. Raven, help us. With a spark of renewed courage, Kim turned toward her daughter. We're together, Raven. Please, help us light the way. As if in response, Raven glowed brightly, casting shadows onto the walls of their trapped void, creating a soft warmth that pushed against the freezing fear clenching at Kim's heart. For the first time, the darkness recoiled. The pulse throbbed louder, the shadows hesitating as a sliver of light broke through. No. Don't let her in. The voice hissed, rage seeping into every corner. Reject her and find peace. Peace. Kim scoffed, her voice trembling yet resolute. Peace is a lie. I will not abandon my love for her, my fight to keep her memory alive. Suddenly, the shadows lunged, desperate to snatch that connection, slashing through the air with a violent whistle. Kim felt the familiar chill wrap around her throat again, squeezing tightly. Mom! Max cried, pulling against the weight of the darkness, his little face taut with fear. With a deep breath, Kim summoned every ounce of strength, tapping into her memories, the little moments that stitched the fabric of their lives together. I will fight for my love. She shouted, feeling the strength of their shared memories surge through her. A blinding light erupted like a wildfire, radiating warmth and strength. Raven leaped forward, her luminous glow consuming the shadows. The oppressive weight began to lift, yet before they could fully escape, an anguished scream of the whistling woman pierced through the air. You will regret this. And just like that, the light flickered, stuttering against the remnants of darkness swirling hungrily, waiting for their moment to pounce. Stay close. Kim shouted, pulling Max tighter. But the ground beneath them rippled again, a treacherous wave, hurling them into a new terrain. They landed. With a thud, light pooling around them, the darkness swirling beyond the edges, a fierce storm that whispered and beckoned, promising comfort in despair. Where are we now? Max whispered, scanning the shifting shadows that danced just out of reach. Above them loomed a door, cracked and warped, shadows leaking from its edges and pooling on the floor like poison. Kim's heart raced, uncertainty clawing at her throat. Step through, struggling souls. Embrace your fate. The voice ricocheted, dripping satisfaction. What awaited them behind the door? Was this a path to redemption or another trap? The air thickened as they stood on the precipice of the unknown. The door loomed larger as the shadows shifted, swirling like a cyclone, pressing against them with the weight of 1,000 whispered secrets. The air turned electric, crackling with tension. Kim's pulse quickened, a thunderous drum echoing her growing dread. Cold air nipped at her skin, and the shadows seemed to writhe in anticipation. Mom! We can't go through that. Max's voice trembled, wide eyes searching hers for clarity. An instinctual fear pricked at the back of Kim's mind, but she couldn't let panic take over. She had to stay strong for both of her children. Wait, she murmured, catching her breath. What if we can use it? What if there is something we can learn? Raven shivered beside her, the glow of her light flickering like a dying ember. Mom, it feels wrong. It's hungry. Can't you feel it? The shadows seemed to stretch, reaching for Raven's light. Kim could see their inky extensions creeping toward her daughter, an insatiable desire coiling around the child's flickering energy. Together, Kim breathed out, determination igniting a small fire in her chest. We can fight whatever's on the other side. They had to. She had promised. Step through. The chilling voice urged again, insistent and mocking, the words curling into her mind, wrapping tighter like a noose. Then, as if sensing their hesitation, the darkness shrieked, a terrible sound that reverberated in a way that made her bones rattle. The door pulsed like a heartbeat, each thud striking terror into her heart. On 3, she whispered, adrenaline coursing through her veins. 1, 2. Before she could count to 3, the door swung open with a creak that sliced through the air like a knife. Inside was a realm drenched in shadows, swirling mists curling lazily against walls adorned with distorted faces, faces that seemed to leer and moan. The scent of decay filled her nostrils, cloying and thick. Let us go. She shouted, grabbing both their hands. They surged forward, crossing the threshold into the nightmare. As soon as they stepped through, a cacophony of whispers enveloped them, chilling little shards of fear digging deep into Kim's psyche. Memories not her own clawed at her consciousness, doubt, resentment, sorrow swelling inside her like a tidal wave threatening to sweep her under. Mom! Max screamed, stumbling, his small hand slipping from hers. No! Kim lunged for him, but the very air churned and twisted, a force pushing against her, keeping them apart. The shadows thickened, dancing in a frenzy around them, feeding off the fear. Desperate images flashed, flashes of her past, of choices made, a scraped knee from a fall that almost took Raven's life, missed opportunities, half-hearted reassurances that echoed hauntingly in the corners of her mind. Remember, the pain can protect you, the voice whispered seductively, teasing her with a venomous promise. Raven was losing her light, shrinking back, terror-filled whispers escaping her lips. Mom, help! With a wild surge of strength, Kim bellowed through the turmoil, you can't have her. You don't own us. The shadows roared in response, and with a flick of darkness, they lunged toward her, mouths opening wide to devour. Kim could feel the pull of their icy grasp. All the warmth, the hope was leaking away. Trapped in a whirlwind of despair, Kim grappled with her own guilt, memories of Raven and Max intertwining with regret. But none of it could be true. She had to fight. Suddenly, the door warped and buckled behind them. The light blared into the shadowy realm, splintering the darkness, but how long could it hold? Mom! We need to go back. Max shouted, his frantic voice cutting through the chaos. Not yet, she replied, gritting her teeth. They needed to find the source of this malevolence, it was a chance to reclaim their darkness, not surrender to it. As they pressed forward, the ceiling began to shake, loose fragments of shadowy rock crumbling, swirling violently. Would they find the way out or become lost in the shadows forever? Just beyond the murmurs, she thought she heard something worse than the shadows. You cannot escape, it breathed. But what lay in wait was far worse than anything she had imagined. The howling grew louder, and as they turned a corner, they stumbled into a dimly lit cavern. At its center stood a figure cloaked in charcoal, with eyes that gleamed like coals. Kim froze, heart pounding like a war drum. Who was this? What did they want? Welcome. I've been expecting you, the figure hissed, extending an elongated hand. And then she noticed the shadows were shifting again, swirling around their limbs like shackles. Was this figure the key to their salvation, or the harbinger of the end? Mom! We can't trust it. Max shouted, the terror bubbling in his voice, even as the darkness pressed closer, hungry for submission. What were they willing to risk to find out? Would they embrace the darkness or break free? The answer loomed large, just within reach, but would they dare to find it? Kim stood frozen, heart pounding, as the figure swayed before them, cloaked in shadows so thick they wove into the very fabric of her fears. The voice, smooth yet monstrous, slithered through the air, wrapping around her thoughts, echoing the darkest corners of her mind. Welcome, Kim, it crooned, I've been waiting for you to embrace what has been denied. The shadows pulsed like a living entity, skimming over Kim's skin with cold fingers. A shiver coursed through her, tightening her grasp on Max's hand. What do you want? She shot back, desperation fueling her words. Only what you hold dear, it whispered, eyes glinting like red embers. To claim the truth that unravels the past. But first, give in to your darkness. To free yourself, you must accept what you fear. No. She screamed, rallying an unexpected surge of strength. You want to take us. Suddenly, behind her, Raven flickered like a dying light. Mom, don't. It's trying to twist you. Raven. Kim turned, her heart tearing as she saw her daughter's glow dimming against the encroaching shadows. The figure laughed, the sound reverberating through the chamber, so naive. You think strength lies in denial? These shadows, your regrets, are the very essence of what you've buried. Alone, they will consume you, but together, we're stronger. Kim shouted, pulling Max closer to her, determined to shield him from the grasping darkness. You don't own us. In that moment, something shifted within Kim. All the pain she had buried for so long surged forth, memories of laughter, of love, of the joy her family once shared. Everything warred against the shadows clamoring for her surrender. I won't run from this anymore. She declared, her voice unyielding. The shadows screamed, thrashing violently as reality trembled around them. You can't win. The figure howled, its voice a blend of fear and rage. You're tethered to the darkness. No. Kim cried out, standing firm, clutching Max's hand and summoning the memory of Raven, the warmth of her laughter, the light that formed their family. The sallow walls painted with dread began to dissipate before their very eyes. You are not my truth. With the surge of love, something ignited deep within her spirit. Each beat of her heart echoed love, loss, regret, all melding into a single, fiery beacon aimed at the heart of the darkness. Feel it. She uttered, feeling the warmth emanate brighter. We will rise together. We fight for our family. The shadows recoiled, writhing in disbelief. They were stronger together, it dawned clear in her core. Max squeezed her hand tighter, his fear melding with the fire of their shared memories, forging a powerful bond that crackled with energy. Mom, I can feel it. He shouted, determination rushing in his voice. Now, together. Kim urged, pushing further into the burgeoning light. The cavern trembled, shadows swirling like a storm as they stepped forward, empowered with purpose. We embrace our truth. We remember. The figure shrieked, the sound piercing the chaotic air, and with that horrible noise came the realization that they were wearing down its grip. You cannot escape, it hissed, but Kim already felt the shadows give way beneath her. Watch us, Kim proclaimed as she stood firm with Max and the shimmering essence of Raven at her side. Together they surged forward, forming a living wall of light that swallowed back the darkness, shattering the suffocating grip it once held dear. With a final burst of energy, they leaped into the heart of the darkness, a blinding light cascading around them as shadows unraveled into wisps, dissolving into dust that floated away into nothingness. Mom! Look! Max shouted, his voice ringing bright, excitement bubbling in his throat. Kim turned to see Raven glowing brilliantly, a beacon of their shared love, illuminating the dark space with her radiant shimmer. We did it! The little girl cheered, laughter echoing in the empty chamber. As the last remnants of darkness faded, Kim's heart soared with elation mixed with an undercurrent of bittersweet loss. We broke the cycle, she wept, feeling the weight of ages lift from her shoulders. They found themselves standing in the sunshine of a new dawn, the shadows finally vanquished. The whispers faded into the gentle hum of life, replaced by chirping birds and the soft rustle of leaves. Kim knelt, wrapping her arms around her children. We're safe, she whispered, tears of relief flooding her eyes. No matter what, we'll always be strong. The three of them stood in the warm embrace of the sun, hearts connected in a bond stronger than blood, forged through acceptance and love. The light they carried would always break through the shadows. And behind them, the remnants of the whistling woman faded into the quiet of Cedar Hollow, forever haunted yet liberated, her tale transformed into a whisper carried by the winds of change that swept through their lives. Now it was time to live anew. If you enjoyed this nail-biting conclusion, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Show your love. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support is what keeps this channel alive, and only true fans understand the importance of these actions. Let us keep the story going.